Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. And today me and you, are going to talk about why it is so hard to implement change. Okay. Especially when you are a high performing, resilient, problem solving, decision making boss. Okay. Because those are all the people I work with. That's the majority of my audience. And so, you know, what I hear a lot in my clients and just even talking to people, mainly at the beginning of the journey, they go, Mintu, I know better. Like, I know better. I know what I should be doing. I know what I should be eating. I know I should be regulating. I know I should be doing all these things, but I just can't get to the other side of it. And I've heard this from the gauntlet, you name it, men, women, older, younger. It's change can be hard, and it's almost even harder when you're like a really capable person. And, me and Dr. Derek Rabowski talked about capability versus capacity a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and do it because he just so eloquently put what the difference is. And so when you're someone who's highly capable and you're, again, high skill set, resilient, hardworking, great problem solver, it's like, how come I can solve all these big problems at work? But then when it comes to taking care of myself or what I know I need to do for myself to be able to continue taking care of the business and the family, et cetera, I can't get to the other side. Okay. And there's two reasons that I think, not that I think, that I witness every day that holds people back. Okay. And the first one is this: capacity. Okay. I was talking with a client a couple weeks ago, and he is going through let's just say some really big challenges with his company right now. And he's on the go a lot, he's traveling a lot. And, we had talked about one of the first things I implement with people is daily regulating practices, because you have to build up the habit first to really understand what regulation feels like in the body. And you have to baby step it, because if your body's been in fight or flight or just dysregulated freeze for so long, a moment of like clarity and balance is going to feel foreign to you. And if you want that. So we started talking about like, hey, just twice a day, we just need 10 minutes to step away from the desk, to step away from the office and just like walk, move your body, dispel some of this stress from the day. Okay. And so we hadn't seen each other in a couple weeks as he had been traveling, and so had I. And, he was just honestly at a really just felt like his back was up against the wall. And, he's like, I feel stuck. I feel stuck with what to do next with the business. I feel stuck within my body. I feel heavy. I'm not thinking clearly. Like, my team, my company can feel the energy I'm giving off. And he's like, I know what to do. It's just, why can't I freaking get to the other side of it? And the challenge was this. Because I'd ask him, like, have you been walking? Have you been getting up from your desk? Have you been giving yourself these strategic breaks we talked about? And of course, his answer was no, I just don't have time in my day, right? But what was happening was, it was his concept of what needed to happen in order to actually feel relieved versus what actually could happen in order to feel relieved, okay? And what I see with a lot of high performers is it's very much this all or nothing mentality, or if it's not hard and challenging, it's not worth doing, okay? So as we talked through it, essentially what it came down to is I said, okay, look, you know that 10 minutes of movement once in the morning and once after the noon could help your body. But what's happening is you're defaulting to this old method of thinking of saying, if it's not an hour in the gym of high intensity, sweat, blood, tears, breaking yourself, then it's not worth doing. Am I right? And he shook his head slowly. He's like, yep, that's exactly it. Okay, if you're an executive who's craving more clarity, happiness, and a sense of real inner peace in your day-to-day, make sure you hit follow so you never miss an episode. This show is here to help you lead, succeed, and actually feel good while doing it. And if something resonates today, give it a like and share it with someone else who could use a little bit more calm in their life too. And so what a lot of us do is we get trapped. We think, well, if it's not a 60-minute high intensity workout class, if it's not busting my ass lifting these weights, if I'm not running 3 miles, then what's the point? It's like, okay, yeah, don't get me wrong. Those things are great for the body, but you don't have the capacity to do that right now. Okay? You're trying to drive to Banff on 1 tank of gas, which guys, Banff is like 5 hours from me. So like you're trying to get there on 1 tank of gas, but you only have enough gas to get to the end of the block. So what are we talking about here? Right? And it's coming to this realization that like we end up being the biggest barrier to our growth. And not because you aren't capable of doing what you need to do, but because your body's holding on to this old strategy of if it's not hard and it's not difficult and it's not painstaking, then what's the point? Right? You've become addicted to you have to earn and fight your way to any type of relief, to any type of peace, to any type of reward or relief. It has to come at with the expense of blood, sweat, and tears. But the reality is you don't have blood, sweat, and tears to give. Okay? So then because you don't have the capacity to even go get this hour-long workout in, you're just not going to do anything at all. Well, this is now where we become self-sabotaging because what we need to do is we need to fill up the tank accordingly, okay? What most high achievers do is we wait, we push, we push, we push, we push, and then we push until we break down on the side of the road, and then we fill up, right? We drive that car as far as we can through the barren desert, through everything. And then eventually when we break down on the side of the road, we go, oh, okay, I guess I'll go walk and get some gas now, or I'll get the oil change now. What we need to be doing is we need to be stopping for gas along the way strategically, right? So we never end up broken on the side of the road, right? Makes sense when you think about a car, but why aren't we doing it for ourselves? Right? So when you're at this place where you're in survival mode and you are overthinking, you are overanalyzing, you're indecisive, you're reactive, you are having trouble sleeping, digesting, you're just inflamed, the body is swollen, okay? That is a sign that you're starting to put. That is a sign that you are about to break down on the side of the road if you haven't already, okay? And so instead of feeling like that put, 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 that stutter's starting to come along on the engine, instead of saying, well, I'm just going to keep trying putting the, pedal to the metal and putting the gas all the way down and let's see how far I can go. What we need to do is we need to get to a gas station now. I need to refuel with the capacity I have now. Okay. So with this particular client, I said, I don't want you even thinking about a workout right now. Like, yeah, of course, going to the gym, lifting weights, all of that is great. Going for a 3-mile walk or run, of course, that stuff is great for you. But that's nowhere near your capacity right now. So we need to work with the capacity we have to build it up, to get your body back to a point where it can do those things. So that means get rid of this all or nothing attitude. It doesn't have to be strenuous and hard. What we need to do is we need to take that goalpost of what we think is worth our time and energy and dial it back to what we actually have the capacity for with our time and energy. So that means instead of a 3-mile or 3-kilometer walk, it's a 10-minute walk around the block. Okay? We have to move the goalposts based on what your body is telling you it has in the tank. And if you want to keep overriding it with your brain, good luck. It doesn't work. You cannot think your way back into regulation, okay? It does not work. I've tried it. I have clients who've tried it. I witness people all day long who are trying it, right? You cannot think your way back to regulation, okay? So again, this is a checkpoint for you. If you're listening to this, I want you to honestly ask, am I Am I sabotaging? Am I becoming the bottleneck in my own problems because I'm just don't have a realistic idea of where my capacity is at? And being in this delusional space of thinking you do is honestly hurting you. Like, is it admirable? Is it coming from a good place? Of course. Like, you want to push, you want to be the best you can be. But the body is it's it's adaptive and it's responsible to our environment and to what we're going on or what's going on in our lives, right? Like, women will get this especially. Like, every all weeks of the month look completely different for us based on our hormones, right? So we can't be at the same output level every month strictly because or every week strictly because of that, let alone month after month after month. And with men, it'd be the same thing. Like, there are some days we're going to have more energy. There are some days we're going to have less. There are weeks where you're going to have better sleep, worse sleep, et cetera, et cetera. If you try to keep riding out the same output, knowing that the circumstances in the system have changed, all you're doing is you're going to break down faster. Things are not going to be sustainable. You're going to burn out faster. You're going to feel resentful faster. And then what's happened is you've created your own prison in your mind. You're thinking, why isn't it working? I've been doing everything the same. And because you're not adapting, right? You're not adapting. If you're a leader, if you're in business of any type, you know you have to adapt with the environment, with the market, with the algorithm. It's just the reality of the world we're living in now. There's so much variable and change happening that you have to be adaptable. But adaptability comes with flexibility. So if you're still rigid in your belief that I should be able to get the same output every day and never have to refuel the tank or change the strategy of how I support myself, it's not going to work. It's not. And I see it all day long. And then what happens is we end up suffering and we end up judging ourselves and we end up feeling guilty and we self-punish ourselves and judge ourselves and criticize ourselves, all because we're not adapting properly. And guess what? The only person that suffers from that is you. No one else around you is paying attention. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're the only one suffering in the process of like, why can't I figure it out? And honestly, your relationships, your business are going to be impacted by that. I should say that. They are going to be impacted. But what I mean is you holding on to the old way of doing things is doing nothing for anybody. And it's just making you feel worse. Okay? So reason number one why change is so hard is you need to get really clear on the capacity you do have and work with that, not pretend you have this level of capacity in trying to force your body into that space. Work with the capacity you have, be very clear on that. And again, the way you know that you're not in alignment with what the capacity of your body actually is shit feels really hard. And even things that shouldn't feel hard. Okay? When you're snapping at little decisions, when sending an email takes 10 retries, when you're opening 5 different tabs and you don't even know which one you're working on, when you're just making decisions feels hard and they don't need to be. When things start to feel unnecessarily hard, that shows that you're operating at a level you actually can't support right now. So what do we need to do? We just need to dial it back. We need to simplify. But the first thing we need to do is we need to regulate. We need to refuel the tank, okay? Which brings me to my second point, which is the only way to truly support the nervous system and regulate is through action. One of the biggest struggles for high achievers is they can't tell whether they're burnt out or just overly tired. That's why I created the High Performer Stress Assessment, which will assess exactly what your mind and body are struggling with and what you need to start feeling more balanced, grounded, and happy ASAP. It only takes 2 minutes to complete, and you can find the link in the show notes below. When we're thinking about like calming down and feeling more grounded and, being less reactive, our default is usually to think our way into that place, right? Like, oh, it's not a big deal. They're doing their best. They didn't have all the information. Okay, cool. So yes, that mental chatter does help. Okay. But how many times have you been in a situation where you can clearly think about why this is happening, but then when it comes to your actual actions and behaviors, it is so difficult and you still feel that tight chest, that shortness of breath, that pit in your stomach, that those tight lifted up shoulders up by your ears, right? We cannot think our way into regulation, and we also cannot heal and grow and expand the nervous system through thought or self-talk either. It has to be through action, okay? So if you're sitting there again saying, I know I need to do all these things, why can't I do them? Well, A, is because you're trying to talk yourself into doing them. Talking yourself into doing it isn't going to do anything. I shouldn't say it's not going to do anything. It will help. But what it has to come down to is showing your nervous system. Okay. I was listening to a great podcast the other day from Sarah Baldwin. She is a nervous system expert. She's incredible. And she, again, so eloquently reminded me that you have to show the nervous system. You cannot tell. And she said in the podcast, she says, when we go through traumatizing or overwhelming experiences, those are things that happen to us. Again, those are experiences. Those are things we lived through. She's like, yeah, we're sitting here trying to heal and grow by listening to podcasts and reading books. Podcasts and books didn't traumatize us. So why are we trying to fix the trauma and the overwhelm through podcasts and books? I know you're listening to a podcast now, but my point is you have to get into the body. You have to move. You have to activate. You have to learn through action. Okay? So let's say you're trying to set some new boundaries at work. This is an actual thing I dealt with a client the other day, and she wants to start prioritizing her calendar in a way where she does on-site visits this day and admin work this day and projections and stuff on this day. Like she's like, her issue is people just start inserting them wherever they want to, and then of course she doesn't actually focus and get done what she needs to. So for her, the boundary is when I say, Mondays and Wednesdays are blocked off for site visits, then Mondays and Wednesdays are site visits, and that's when I'm booking them in. Now, the challenge there was, of course, a client's going to call and say, hey, I need you there Tuesday at 5 p.m. when Tuesday at 5 p.m. is not the designated time for her site visits, okay? So we had a group coaching call on the weekend, and, we were talking about her having to draw the line and say no when these things come up. But I told her, I said, the reality is I don't need to give you a better script. What we need to teach your nervous system to do is to hold space for disappointment, right? She can say the perfect script. She can read something off and say, I'm sorry, I'm not available at that time. I'm sorry, I can only do Monday or Wednesdays for site visits. I can give her all the words in the world to say when the client calls. But the reality is it's not the words that are hard. It's the tightness in her chest that starts to creep in. It's her shoulders lifting. It's her body feeling like it's collapsing while she has to say that. And then what happens is because the body starts to have this type of reaction to setting a boundary, now her mind starts to go and say, oh, we're being selfish. Oh, we should put their needs before ours. Oh, I should just suck it up and I'll take care of them and I'll deal with my stuff later. It starts to come up with all these reasons as to why she doesn't need to hold this new boundary. Oh, they're going to think I'm not working hard, or I'm not putting the client first. All these stories that are not true, okay? So again, what I told her is we need to teach the body to hold space for disappointment. We need to teach the body that it's okay if the other person's needs aren't met in that exact configuration of whatever they're asking, and it's okay to prioritize ourselves, okay? So instead of just giving her a script, again, showing the nervous system, not telling, we did some role play, okay? Now, why this role play was so helpful is because, first of all, I'm not the actual threat, okay? So when it comes to um, w- um, supporting the nervous system to have new experiences so that it can rewire the old patterns and the old references of danger, if you will, you want to do it in very palatable baby micro steps where we're not throwing you out to the wolves right away. We're essentially just, again, we're just kind of like extending the nervous system muscle. We're just stretching it little by little to get a little bit more comfortable, okay? Um, and providing some like disconfirming experiences for it. So knowing that you can say this and it doesn't mean, the world's going to end, for lack of a better term. So what was helpful about this exercise is I was role playing with her, so I'm not the actual threat, right? So it's not, again, the big jump into the water. Now you got to tell your clients you're not going to be there. It's, hey, this is a pretend situation, but her body had to go through the motions of saying, no, I'm not available. So we did this role play situation where, again, it was, um, I was gonna call her. I wanted her to come at 9:00 a.m. on a Wednesday to the site visit. Wednesdays were not her designated days, okay? So I know that was backwards from the example I said earlier, but Wednesdays were not her designated days. I believe Fridays were her designated days for site visits, but I was gonna call her Tuesday at 5 p.m. and tell her I needed her there at 9 a.m., okay? And so when we went through this exercise, I said, "Hey, I need you there at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You're the only person that can take care of this. What time can I expect you?" And her job was to say back, "I'm sorry, I'm not available at that time." And not over explain, not feel guilty, and not shut down, okay? Now, for the sake of the exercise, I wanted her to stop there. I didn't want her to keep going and saying, "But I could show up on Friday or Monday," which obviously in a business setting, that's what you do. You'd say no to what you can't do, but offer another solution. But I wanted her just to exercise the muscle of saying, "No, I won't be, I know I cannot make that happen," and stopping there, right? And so we did that a few times. And every time we did that, we paid attention to what was happening in her body, which everything got tight. Again, she kind of just started to tense up and kind of go into fight mode, shoulders lifted, chest tight. So we'd practice the exercise. She'd feel where her body tightened, and then we'd time out, and then we'd go regulate. So then we'd do a little bit of shaking or some body taps or something just to bring her back into her body in that moment. Again, because we have to show the nervous system, not tell. Okay. So we took that moment to show her nervous system, "Hey, I know you're a little scared right now. That's why everything's tensing up, because we just did something we don't normally do. So now I'm going to show the body through some self-soothing, some sways side to side, some self-connection and rubbing, again, some body taps, um, some breathing at the same time, until the body could come back into a regulated space." Okay? Now, again, why that's so important is because if we're trying to set a new behavior, which is setting that boundary, we have to reaffirm the new action with a regulating action to create security, okay? Lots of people will try and set the boundary, which is great, but then they don't do anything to regulate their body after, which it's good that you took the action, but if you don't regulate after, your body stays in this elevated space, even if the interaction went well. And the client goes, "Oh, no big deal. Let me know when you're free." Ideal experience, of course, too. But the reason the action and the regulating practice after helps so much is because it like cradles the landing, if you will. Okay. It then now hugs the body into saying, "Oh, okay, see, that wasn't so bad. We did it." Right. And every time you do that, it brings you back to baseline. Okay. So then we did this a few times, and every time we did this exercise, I would give her a little bit more pushback, okay? So the point is we had to do it through action. I didn't just give her some scripts and some, email lines that she could put in there to say why she wasn't available. We had to teach her body to hold space for this. If you're a high achiever, you probably feel the exhaustion that comes with always pushing and carrying the load. And here's the honest truth. Burnout doesn't fix itself by working harder or pushing more. You're not meant to just survive your success. You're someone who leads with impact and depth and intention, and you deserve to feel calm and connected while doing it. So imagine showing up present for your work and your personal relationships, feeling calm and grounded instead of constantly stretched. If that's what you want, this is exactly what we do in the Higher Alignment program. Book your assessment call through the link in the show notes, and let's get you back to balance and back to feeling like yourself again. If you're trying to implement something It is not enough to think about it or to tell yourself to just do it. Don't get me wrong, could you eventually get there by doing that? Yeah, but it takes way longer and it's way harder because you're trying to think your way into something that's actually in action. And it's honestly the most inefficient way to do it. Okay? So whatever is on your mind right now that I just need to break through, I just need to do, for me, what comes to mind is I'm on this new body composition journey right now, okay? And I went through something last year I haven't talked about yet that had my body shifting in different ways, and I'm getting married in September, which is exciting. So, your girl wants to look good, okay? But my body is responding to food and exercise differently than it has in the past, and I want my body to look a different way now. So I'm going through like a recomposition journey, and that means eating more protein every day. That means getting in the steps. That means strength training instead of high intensity or a lot of cardio. That means proper sleep. That means proper supplementation. That can take over your entire life. Okay. Like if you really want to go on a real fitness journey and like kill it, like honestly, it takes a lot of dedication and focus, especially when you're really changing your relationship with food and exercise and all these things. And so I'll be honest, I don't wanna give my entire life to this fitness journey and to this body recomp journey. I wanna do it, I'm committed, but I don't want it to become an obsession. So for me, what I've had to do is I've had to break it down into palatable steps, okay? So I'll just be honest, the ones that stick out for me really right now is I have to get over 100 grams of protein a day, under 100 grams of carbs. That will get more refined as I get, more into it more. And then I'm doing strength training 4 days a week. Okay, cool. I need to get those under my belt first. Okay. Once I kind of get those under my belt a little more, now we can add a few more things, right? Of course, 10,000 steps a day would be great. I also live in Edmonton, Alberta. There is so much snow and ice. I can hit that if I go to the gym and get on the treadmill. I don't really want to be in the gym every single day right now. So the steps aren't quite there, but I will get there. Okay. Sleep, I've been working on sleep for years, so that one's already in the bucket. But do you see what I mean? You have to take it in steps with the capacity that you have. Could I go full throttle and start becoming obsessed? Yes. Do I want to live that way? No. Because there's also other things that are important to me, right? And again, maybe I will start to dial it up more when the summer comes and when we have a little bit more sun, I can be outside more and all these things. Yeah. And that's not an excuse, but that's just where I'm at right now. And I'm not going to try and pretend to myself that I'm somewhere else. Because guess what? I did that for years in my old careers, selling myself a story of what I had to do and what I had to be happy, just to end up burnt out and resentful. Okay? So again, get really honest and clear with yourself on where your capacity is and adjust the goals for that. Okay? No shame in the game. Trust me, capacity is the key. Capacity is the gatekeeper to you living the life that you want to live, but you have to work with what it's giving you right now in order to increase it. Okay? And then 2, action. The nervous system learns, heals, shifts, grows, changes through action, and not forceful action, but intentional action, action supported by capacity. Okay. Those two have to work together. Okay. For this to be a journey that actually feels palatable, sustainable, and something that you're going to find success at. Right. The worst thing is when we start things and then we fall off the bandwagon and then we judge ourselves and then we don't start and pick up back again. It's because we're not approaching it with the right strategy. Okay. So if you have something you want to turn the peak on, use these tools, use these steps, get really clear on it. And I promise you, things will start turning a lot more efficiently for you. But you gotta learn to work with your nervous system instead of against it.